not too distant future, way down in deep 13, Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank were hatching an evil scheme.
Hello, I'm Faith, and welcome to Faith's Take, where I talk about anything and everything that I find interesting. And welcome to my review of episode 619 of MST3k, Red Zone Cuba. And this is another review courtesy of our little interweb community's wonderful generosity from last year's St. Jude's charity. This one was funded and requested by Roland. Season 6 of the show had 3 total episodes covering all 3 films by hack director Coleman Francis. If the name sounds familiar, it's because I've reviewed one of those episodes already, The Skydivers. Now, if you'll remember, Skydivers was a bland film based around a skydiving base where there was supposed to be intrigue about a couple's broken marriage and infidelity. And if you thought that movie was dull and bleak, that's nothing compared to this grim, pointless wooden take on the Bay of Pigs. So let's not waste any time and get straight into it with my review of MST3k, episode 619, Red Zone Cuba. Okay, so if you saw my King Dinosaur review, you know that I've never been too big a fan of the Invention Exchange, and by season 6 it was long gone. So you'd think that would improve the opening host segments. But boy would you be wrong. While Invention Exchanges and a Season 8's Sci-Fi Channel forced plotlines can leave a lot to be desired, I'll go on record saying in the original run of the show, Seasons 6 and 7 have the most inconsistent host segments. Some are absolute classics, but many range from mid to painful, as we'll see in this very episode. The cold open is cute enough, with Tom using his head to pop out ping pong balls with lotto numbers on them, and I'm always a sucker for fun servo head gags. But it's almost immediately downhill. TV's Frank calls up to Mike and admits to owing the mob a heckin' lot of money. The mob sends someone to rough him up, but he's somehow able to send Dr. Forrester out to get beaten instead. Dr. F is not merely kneecapped here, no. He's completely, cartoonishly, full-body cast level of destroyed. And if it ended here, it wouldn't be too bad, but oh no. It never freaking ends. But before the cast reveal, Mike and the bots dress in tuxes and imply they'll be gambling in Vegas to then reveal that the gag is they're simply playing bingo? This moment is 100% a filler moment. And while the outfits are adorable, the only joke is the bingo gag itself, and there's no other point than to be a cute cutaway to set up the hospital bed suddenly being a deep 13. And trust me, we'll see plenty of this later.
You're just in time to read tonight's lotto numbers!
Oh,
Woo!
I didn't know that we were...
There you go. And the first number is...
65. How many of these lotto numbers do we need?
Oh,
5.
you need a lotto numbers, Mike.
Okay, 4. And tonight's Powerball number is... 509. 509.
Oh, hi, Mike. Say, have you ever been in deep with the mob for, say, 50 large?
No, I don't think so. Is there a problem or something?
Oh, nothing. It's just that, well, I'm in deep to the mob for 50 large. Oh, you must be here to see TV's Frank. I'll go see if TV's Frank is here. There's a Joey Skinny Legs Tagliano here to see you.
Did I go to high school with him? I bet that's what it is. I went to high school. Joe? Hello? Whoa!
Ah, Nelson! Awfully good evening, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Crow. Where was it last we met? Was it Atlantic City, Monte Carlo, Grand Casino Hinckley? Let the games begin, gentlemen.
B37, B37.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Nelson.
Your movie is Red Zone Cuba, but first there's a short.
Attention. The buffet is now being served.
The buffet! You get it clear.
Before heading into the bleak Coleman Francis madness, we start with a short all about how important your appearance is when giving a speech. Because yes, if you weren't terrified of the audience's blank and shameless gaze already, remember that if you don't look put together, they won't listen to you anyway, so why even bother? The narrator gives us some bizarro imagination exercises before summing up that appearance, even subconsciously, affects everyone and that we'll all be judged on our looks, not your actual words or message. But he's not just talking about looking sharp in a new outfit or having some sleek hair. Nope, he says that people won't even begin to hear your message over how loud your bad posture is. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever let someone's posture affect what I think about their message. Are people really gonna ignore you just because you slouch a little? I don't think so, especially not if your delivery is good. But the narrator is so fixated on this point, he even gives us a humiliating test to do on stage to be sure our feet are the proper length apart.
Hey, Posture Pals was the definitive last word on posture.
Now just suppose you were a beautiful doll with rosy cheeks and big blue eyes.
Okay.
A doll that never talked.
Just do what he says.
Or a tree that basked in the warm sunshine and rustled in the breeze. A tree that never spoke.
Now you're a can opener, metal and shiny and taciturn.
Or suppose you were a... Yes, appearance is important.
There. I said it. I'd say it again if I had to.
Your appearance may help convince your audience you know what you're talking about. Or it may convince them you don't know what you're talking about.
Of course, I don't know what I'm talking about.
A good appearance, if your posture is poor, your audience thinks, this poor fellow isn't sharp. In your thinking, you must convince yourself you will think tall, talk tall, stand tall, and walk tall.
Shave tall, jump tall, and crouch tall.
But look at him. He looks almost too tired to stand up.
Women be different than men.
Word.
She keeps her feet clamped tightly together.
Enough said.
And in having the feet just the right distance apart for comfort. You can determine this distance by making the knee test.
I will not make the knee test.
You'll look poised and dignified.
No, you won't.
Because you're off balance, you may fall either forward or backward.
Don't do this during the speech.
Head until you find the easiest and most comfortable position. Then note the location of your feet.
Yeah, that's it, baby. Shake that moneymaker!
Always try to keep your feet in...
We open this, the last of Coleman Francis's contributions to cinematic history, seeing John Carradine as a conductor at a railroad station. He's smoking on the station's porch when a young reporter comes to ask him questions about three men who passed through back in 1961, 5 years ago. Carradine remembers them, despite them being the blandest trio in history, as we'll soon find out, and he only saw them for a few seconds. We then cut to 1961 to tell the story proper, and the opening credits roll as John Carradine himself serenades us with the film's only song, Night Train to Mundo Fine. And it is just as jarringly ridiculous as it sounds. We see Coleman Francis as he cast himself as the leading role of Griffin, a man running away as he's just escaped prison. He hides near a truck where two men are changing the tire. One, named Landis, is played by Anthony Cardoza, the main guy from Skydivers, so you know we're in for some gripping acting today. The other man is named Cook, and they're confronted by a local sheriff for a moment. As they drive off, Griffin almost gets sniffed out by police dogs, but he jumps in their truck bed just in time. The next morning, while the duo's eating breakfast, Griffin threatens them with a gun for literally no reason, and they invite him to eat and give him their backstory. After robbing a liquor store a few years ago, they'd done 2 years of hard labor and now look for work wherever they can find it. Another cop runs up on them as Griffin runs and hides. The other two have a chance to out him to the officer for $5,000, but don't, thinking Griffin will kill them. But I'm sure the cop has a gun himself. I'd take the chance for that much cash easy.
Well, this is a sunny opening.
John Carradine.
Was he always 100 years old?
I'll keep walking, and eventually they'll stop filming.
I'm doing a follow-up story on the desperados that were through here in 61.
Aye.
Which century?
I believe you were engineer on the train they grabbed that night.
Yeah, that's right.
Choo Charlie was
I
my
was
name.
making a run out of Albuquerque. I saw some men running. It was dark.
Yes, sir.
That's not enough?
He ran all the way to hell.
But there's always a stop in Wausau.
How's that fit, you fancy pants?
I train to Mundo Fine.
Well, they don't call John Carradine the voice for nothing.
To the air.
Oh, to be blessed with an instrument like that.
Running hard hell's ride to the air.
Oh, now I'm rocking.
My soul should...
Take it. Get down now, boogeyman. Whoa. Play that funky music.
Drink night train, go to the basketball game, throw up under the bleachers.
Mo's gonna kill me!
All right, stand back there, Cook.
There'll be no tire change in my county, mister.
I'll have to run you through the computer. Well, I would if I had one.
Crap, I'm locked out of my car.
Sometimes walking the dog just isn't that relaxing.
You know, this movie can't decide if it's lighthearted comedy or gripping drama.
Running down the road, trying to loosen my load. I got Coleman Francis on my mind.
Oh!
Yeah.
Well, this film is moving along quite briskly.
Well, look who's finally out.
No need for that, son. Sit down. Have some coffee. Few beans left.
No need to make a fuss.
Oh, pshaw, there's always too many beans.
I thought I heard something in the back of that truck last night.
But I was too lazy to turn my head and look.
Me and Landis got busted back in '58. Liquor store. 2 years of hard labor. Now we're grabbing a job anywhere we find it.
Coffee?
And thus a solid friendship is born.
Oh no, the lunch rush.
Whoop, my ride's here. Gotta get my purse.
Didn't happen to see a big fella, about 200 pounds maybe, hitchhiking?
No, sir, we didn't.
Uh-huh.
Do you provide a service of some sort?
Just in case you do, his name is Griffin, and the reward is $5,000.
He's over there! He's right there! Right in the bush!
Oh, he's a regular Mycroft Holmes.
And on to the awful host segments I was talking about earlier. The bots and Mike are still dressed to the nines, but instead of doing anything cute or fun with that, we cut to Deep 13, where Frank monologues about how Dr. Forrester would never let such incredible injuries get him down. Then he hoists Dr. F up and makes him perform the knee test. Get it? The joke is that Dr. F is in pain that occurred because of Frank, and Frank is ignoring said pain. While writing this, I actually remember that I always fast-forwarded these segments because they were so boring.
Are you just gonna lie there like a big lump feeling sorry for yourself? Is that it? The old Clayton Forrester wasn't like this at all. He didn't know the meaning of the word quit. He didn't have it in him. He would have pulled his twisted knees over and stood himself up on his own two cast. Here. Oh, there. Okay, let's have at it. Let's go. Come on.
Oh, man, I can hardly stand to watch.
Yeah, I know. His posture is really terrible.
The trio discuss what to do for money, and they decide joining the military would be a great way to earn some quick cash. Because when has that ever backfired for anybody? They decide to join, get the initial $1,000 apiece, and then go AWOL. They find a guy named Cherokee Jack, who has a small plane and will follow you pretty much anywhere for a price. They decide to give him their truck and trade if he'll get them to the military training camp, and it's a deal. The sound effects imply they're flying on a dark and stormy night, but the actual visuals of clear skies would suggest otherwise. Cherokee Jack must have made this flight before, as he greets one of the officers there by the name of Joe as he drops the men off. Joe takes the three into his shack where he says they'll shove off in 24 hours and gives them some paperwork to sign. Griffin is taken aback by this. Like, he really thought they wouldn't even ask them their names? It may be a covert Cuban military operation, but did they expect zero structure to this process? But what comes as the real shock is the lack of cash. Apparently the promise of $1,000 for joining wasn't as cut and dry as these potential con men had hoped. Interestingly, as the three get ready for bed, we see the officers discussing the plans for tomorrow, and Joe correctly figures they're probably on the run from the law. In their cabin, the three are disappointed, with Griffin saying he'd murder Cherokee Jack for lying when it was Cook who said they'd get the money up front in the first place. So even if Cherokee lied, they were on the wrong track to begin with.
We lead a rich life.
That kind of money's worth joining up for. They give you $1,000 to join, and $1,000 when it's over.
That's at least $1,000.
Once we get that money in our hands, we'll grab a long freight train.
Cherokee Jack. Hey, wait! We didn't finish reading the sign.
Buddy Hackett.
He did it again. You'd think they'd be onto him by now.
Cherokee Jack? Yeah, I'm Cherokee Jack.
You know where they train me? $15 each. We're about busted. What did you give us for the truck?
Run good?
Throw in the guy?
Oh, let's look at it.
I'm Cherokee Jack. Well, the close-ups really save on sets.
Well, nose wheel feels mushy.
My Mind if we pick up my flight instructor? I've got a few lessons left.
It's really coming down, huh? Wait a minute, it's beautiful!
Mom, they're landing in our yard.
I brought you some fighting men, Joe. Good, we can use them. Okay, men, follow me.
I'm Cherokee Jack.
Gentlemen, we shove off in 24 hours.
You shove off.
Time for formalities.
That was an official thing I just did.
Sign your names. What for? Well, headquarters can make out your checks.
Is X okay?
We get cash. Cherokee says... Sign your names, please. My name's Chastain.
Justine?
Yeah, that's perhaps the logical spot, Chastain.
Sergeant Justine, I want you to call me Lieutenant Vivian.
I'd do 5 years to get that Cherokee's throat in my hands. Nothing I hate more than a liar.
Don't worry. We'll get out of here.
Well, I feel better just talking about it. Thanks, guys.
Our auteur, ladies and gentlemen.
Lieutenant Justine, yes, I know that's not really his name, it's just really funny to me, and that's what it sounds like he says. Anyway, he comes in to chat with the men for a bit, and we literally get more backstory about this guy and his Cuban grandparents who put him through college and had their sugar mill taken away than any of our three main characters. If that doesn't tell you how much trouble we're in screenplay-wise, I don't know what will. Later that same night, Griffin started to tell a backstory that's purposefully vague when Cook mentions reading a story about a man named Griffin once. He was a cotton man who stole back the cotton he had sold before eventually getting caught. While in jail, his wife spent all the ill-gotten money and then became a prostitute. It's confirmed this is in fact the same Griffin, as he almost chokes Cook to death right then and there. Remember, Coleman Francis cast himself in the role of this violent criminal. There's some really doofy training going on the next morning as the recruits prepare for the night's mission. The trio makes a half-hearted attempt to run, only to immediately fail, and who could have seen that coming? Because one morning of training and a 2-minute strategy session is totally enough planning involved for a military landing operation. Griffin then takes his anger out on a man who innocently asks if they want to play dice. Again, Francis cast himself as this dangerous sociopath.
So you guys want to mess around and overthrow Cuba or something?
How'd you get caught in that?
My grandparents live in Cuba. The sugar mill was taken away.
Now it's a NutraSweet mill.
They financed me 4 years of college. Figure over something.
But enough of that.
I always wanted money.
But I settle for looks.
A lot of money. Boys back at the joint can see me now.
Coleman hogged all the best lines for himself.
Want to fight for some peasants in Cuba.
But I had to finish smoking before I could find that amusing.
Griffin from the Cotton King of the South.
This film dares you to watch it.
Wife spent all the money and become a streetwalker. Every newspaper in the South had a picture of her.
Well, that's a weird stain.
Beautiful broad.
It's my incessant droning, isn't it? That's it, yeah.
I'm just in a bad mood. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
May I finish my story?
They're at bus driver training.
Hi, Cuba.
Castro doesn't stand a chance.
We're gonna make it. Now's the time. We'll hide out till they shove off.
You shove off.
Let's make a run for it.
Well, make a jog for it anyway.
Oh!
And their highly detailed plan falls apart.
You boys want to play some galloping dominoes?
Whoa.
You want to shoot some dice?
Maybe play some freeze tag?
I see. Well, perhaps I'll ask again later, Al.
Man, I want you to study this picture my son drew.
Men, we're shoving off right after sundown.
You shove
I
off.
want to give you some idea of what to expect.
There's 80,000 of them and 7 of us.
At 12 o'clock midnight, that'll throw ropes over the cliff. At 12 midnight,
At 12:15, we're captured.
we must not any question.
Yeah, are your bunkmates supposed to strangle you?
Cutting to our next lackluster segment, it actually starts promisingly, with Mike having already been broken by the movie. He believes himself to be Carol Channing for no reason whatsoever, but instead of having fun with this concept, we cut back to Deep 13, where it's established that everyone in the world is hoping Dr. F dies. Which leads to a bunch of lore-based questions, like, why hasn't anyone freed Mike and the bots if Dr. F is apparently a household name? Again, just a fat waste of time with this instead of Mike's Carol Channing psychosis.
A kiss on the hand, maybe. What happened?
Mike? What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike's not here. I'm Carol Channing.
Oh, I see. Oh, this movie must have really gotten to you. Poor sap.
Well, it's just sensational that you're Carol Channing.
What are you doing? Hey, stop that. As Carol Channing, I must say that is very annoying.
Well, I guess it's pretty inevitable now. Basically, it's a waiting game at this point. Oh, look at this. It's a card from Leo Biscaglia. Hope you die, you rotten best. And look what Mother Teresa sent us. Oh, you know, it's true. One life touches so many others.
If there's one thing this movie teaches us, it's that Coleman must only have like 6 friends. There's only 7 total men storm the beach. The troops climb the cliffs as they kinda sorta practiced for, as we cut to totally the real Fidel Castro and his men. They get wind of the invasion and rush out to put a quick end to this nonsense. The 7 soldiers are all either shot or captured, seeing as they're the most ill-equipped soldiers in human history, so it's not really surprising. The movie then gets a bit too big for its britches as an American invader lies dead on the beach, trying to tug at our heartstrings with a guy we don't even know. Our ex-cons are thrown into a cell where 2 sleeping Cuban revolutionaries are already inside. And then we see another wave of soldiers storm the beach, and based on Castro's men's reactions and the music, it seems to be a much more impactful invasion that actually needs to be fought against aggressively. Meanwhile, Coleman cast himself and his buddies as the most utter failures of an already failed invasion scheme. Turns out Justine gets tossed in their cell too, and from their cell window they can see Joe, who's been in a different area of the encampment. He's taken by guards and gunned down. Again, the movie's asking us to feel for these non-characters, and I can't muster up a thing.
Yes, that's really Castro. The massive invasion force storms the beach.
Owie, my army slacks are too tight and binding.
Well, maybe 25 minutes of training wasn't enough.
Oh, he got the bunny cliff. Well, we just went up this rope, but once more can't hurt.
This movie has the courage to unabashedly repeat itself.
Once all 7 of them are into place, the invasion really begins.
Well, I'm guessing that job at Denny's doesn't seem so bad now, does it?
The A-Team.
Castro lives above a hardware store.
Wow, can you imagine being Castro and seeing that force swarming up at you?
Man.
Pretty sure you're dead.
They just lost a third of their force.
The Yankees will pay highly for you, Senor Francis.
Tragically, he was only looking for sand dollars.
Hey, commies are cute.
Night train to drop the Jeep off.
They captured the Frito Bandito.
He's Cuban.
For this next shot, let's focus on me with my legs splayed and my enormous package spread out.
Oh, their lives haven't changed at all. I'm just glad Coleman's not wearing a skirt.
Thank God. Run away, the ocean's chasing us out!
I am a Cuban, and this is my Cuban infant.
I am a Cuban looking for Cuban safety here in Cuba.
Bay of Pigs.
That's what they say when I go swimming.
Hey, it's Justine or Janine or Jordan, whatever the hell his name is.
Oh no, he's almost in here, I think. This may be so terrifying and... Oh.
Nelson Eddy? Now, don't run away. That would be unfair. Stay there.
Hey, you're gonna shoot me!
Oh, thanks, now I'm dying and I have paint on my face.
Oh, I've heard of this Cuban paint throwing.
Later on, a priest comes in to give one of the Cuban prisoners his last rites before getting executed. I understand this is all supposed to show the horrors of war, but Coleman Francis is not the man for the job here. In their prison, Justine is dying from a shot in the knee. Griffin looks at the wound and says he doesn't even have a full day. Just imagine Coleman Francis being the guy to tell you that you're dying. Griffin decides to use Justine's fever to their advantage, having Cook ask the guard for some water for their fevered companion. Griffin has hidden a gun in his sock and says if the guard actually complies, they'll have a chance to escape. Justine tells them his family in the U.S. has a valuable mine and begs them to bring him along, but obviously with a shot-up leg, they can't. Cook asks for water, and as the guard comes close, Griffin strangles him to death, and the trio head to an airfield since evidently Landis can fly planes.
Soy el Padre González.
The Cubans in this movie sound like the grown-ups on Peanuts.
Wah, 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 wah. You want the paint in your face? That's optional.
Wonder who they're planning on shooting.
Listo.
Mentos.
Ponte.
Viva Cuba!
Disparen.
Pull!
He seems okay with this.
Missed me. Now you have to kiss me.
Please get me a doctor.
I'm George Takei.
No doctor coming here. You'll have to sweat it out.
Yeah.
Here, let Coleman kiss it.
The tender touch of Coleman Francis.
He won't last 24 hours.
I've seen torn pants like that before.
Somebody get me some water.
I'm dying in a rush.
Listo.
Well, they actually made it a fairly challenging shot.
Got a very delicate kidney.
Disparen.
Oh, that's great.
Well. Hey, that's the guy who just got shot.
Somebody get me some water.
They shot a man at the Mexican border.
They know we're all starving for water. Tell the guard he's got a fever. Go on, try it. Guard.
It's me, Margaret.
Sentry. Water. Man got a fever.
You got boogie fever.
Well, I don't have any water. I've got a wonderful bullion here.
I know, I just got killed. I get that a lot.
The airstrip we passed when they captured us. Can you handle one of those planes? I can handle them.
I was in skydivers, you know.
Take me with you. It's about that time. That ranch I told you about, it's got a mountain of pitch blende.
They're practically giving it away.
I know it sounds crazy.
But will you choke me again?
But I believe him.
What you talking about, Willis?
Griffin. Water. Thirsty. Sick man.
Things you'd say to a guard. Things in a prison. Pass.
Oh, please, I'm not a huggy person.
He's dead already, so it's a lot easier.
Oh, the jumping training pays off. Staying corrected.
Landis is, I guess, a slippery guy as he's able to check several planes for gas without getting caught by even one of the many guards. Once he finds the right one, he revs the engine, and only then do Griffin and Cook run to catch up. Yes, Coleman Francis cast himself as a character fast enough to catch up to a plane about to take off. Some guards do see them, but just try to chase them instead of, using their guns on them until it's too late. And jump cut to America, where the trio commit crimes to make their way to Justine's promised mine. Now again, I implore you to remember, not only did Mr. Coleman Francis write and direct this film, he cast himself in it, okay? Okay. I want to remind you because Griffin and Landis go into a creepy man's out-of-the-way diner where his blind daughter lives with him. According to her father, who has an extremely depressing backstory to tell, she went blind after her husband died in the war. I don't know if that's physically possible, but that's the least of the problems with this scene. Why, you ask? Oh, dear viewers. Not only do they kill the old dude by throwing him down a well just so they can steal his car, but while thankfully our riffing crew cuts the scene out completely, according to Wikipedia, Coleman Francis's own character of Griffin goes back to rape the man's blind daughter. He wrote such a vile man and decided to play it himself. This doesn't add anything to the story or the characters, because we already knew Griffin was aggressive and terrible. We didn't need this added to it. Even though the scene is cut from the episode, the very idea makes me sick.
darn good thing they escaped during the Cuban Aircraft Expo.
Look, peanuts aren't important. Just take one.
D for drive, F must mean fly.
Buzzy Thurston is the fugitive.
Come on, you guys, my boss is gonna be really mad.
Pull.
Just ignore them, rise above it.
Woo, phew. Boy, that was close. They made it, though.
Next, we visit lovely Busch Gardens.
They should have tried to take over Belize or Grand Cayman. It would have been easier for their first time.
It says Viva Frog's Legs.
Oh, man, don't tempt me.
I am the dark specter of food.
I sensed there was mail.
Your frog leg's gonna give us some.
My name is Death. I'll be your waiter.
Coffee. Coffee coming up.
Ah, coffee, a Coleman Francis motif. Our pie doesn't make you want to kill yourself. You want some?
She's been blind, since her husband got killed in the war.
That makes sense.
I've done everything for her.
Tried glasses?
No effect. Spent all of my money.
So we're gonna put her down.
Woo! Surprisingly quick out of the blocks, this fellow.
You and your swank restaurant and your chi-chi frog legs.
Not the frog mine, no.
I kind of like it. Set me up, boys.
There. Now we had the rest of the day to ourselves.
Check that junk box, see if it'll run.
All right.
I just keep thinking of those tasty frog legs.
He had one more Deep 13 host segment to round out the story. Dr. F's about to die, slipping between life and death for a while before finding the will to live, which leads him to stand up, much to Frank's disappointment. This is the best of the three mid-film host segments in my opinion, because Dr. F is more of an actual character and not just a moaning mummy. Still pretty weak sauce overall, though.
I'm alive. It's a marshmallow world in the winter.
It's not looking good. I'm afraid we may be at the end.
I'm going down a long hallway. There's a figure at the end beckoning to me. Yes, he's tapping his foot and looking at his watch.
Well, don't you think you ought to go to him then? Yes?
This is it. I'm dead. Wait. I'm alive. No, I'm dead. Wait. I can't die. I've got too much to live for. I've got my good friend Frank. I've got things that I gotta do. I gotta live and laugh and love.
As I just said, the movie had already established Griffin as a bad person before the sexual assault and murder, but after that point had to be driven home once again, the three stop on the side of the road next to signs that say, "Where will you spend eternity?" Real subtle there, Francis. And now is when the John Carradine opening finally gains any sort of relevance, as the criminals abandon their car for a reason that is not ever stated to hop on a freight train that Carradine was engineering that day. Now, do we see Carradine in this scene, or even in the rest of the movie? No. But by simply having the reporter stating he was there at the beginning of the film, it's enough to claim his relevance to this festering gunshot wound of a movie. Realizing they need another car after randomly abandoning the first one, Griffin pistol whips Landis to steal his ring off of him to use for bartering. The editing that gets so confusing it's hard to tell what's happening until we settle into a man running a chop shop as they grab another car. They're back on the road and finally make it to Justine's place to speak with his wife Ruby. She invites them in for more backstory, again about a guy the movie is not about, and she tells them that if there's anything worth something, they can divide it evenly. She says they'll need to gather some supplies for the journey, and oh wow, how is the homicidal maniac and his criminal friends possibly gonna get their hands on supplies?
Get that top up.
Coleman, you brat.
You know, your everyday annoyances should not be filmed.
When we get this top up, we're going to drive back to Cuba and do it right this time.
Spend it at Cliff Weissmeyer's.
So the Cuban stuff, just a digression. Now the movie can really begin.
Cuban stuff?
Excuse me, is this the night train to Mundo Fine? Night train to Mundo Fine. Hey, 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 yeah.
We're gonna let the air out of the tires.
What the hell? What was wrong with the car? You had a perfectly good car.
Boy, this movie doesn't let up.
Wow.
The train riding sequence was omitted for clarity.
Landis, give me the ring.
That's my Archie fan club ring.
I can't give you this ring. My dad gave it to me.
I don't care if Moses gave it to you. Give me the ring.
You're not gonna get it.
Oh, hope that's a gun he pulled out. Ah! I think my neck got broken in that jump cut.
Can I help you, fellas? Got something cheap?
I have a nail I can sell you.
You mean it? Oh, Coleman, I'm touched. Okay. What plots need resolving?
Well, there's the guy in the well.
They gotta do something about Cuba.
The master says you can't stay here.
No, don't bring your movie here. No, get out, go!
You know Bailey.
Sure, I put my face in his wound.
We was with him.
I didn't want him to go. But Bailey's,
Wanted to go.
well, he had ideas.
Bad ideas?
More coffee?
As I said, he was alive, but I'm afraid our friend Bailey is dead.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy. Anyway, pass the salt there, will you?
He told me to move out. Live in town till he returned.
And then come back here till he leaves again.
But this is my home.
I live under the sink.
Well, no use letting that stuff up in the hills go to waste.
Good point, whoever said that.
I don't know how much we owe on our place.
$3 or $4.
We do owe some, I know that. Maybe he won't come back.
Will you move back into town then, or?
You never know how much you miss somebody till they leave you.
I wanted to bring Bailey home. He couldn't make it.
Turns out he's a natural at grief counseling.
May as well get some rest. You men must be worn out. I'll get some quilts for you.
It looks a lot like Cuba out here, but just ignore that.
The next morning, the men indulge in some of Ruby's cooking and help feed the dogs, and just enjoy the morning if the peppy music is any indication. The men and Ruby go to the nearby town and gather all they need to head to the mines for treasure, jaunty music following the whole way. But this is a Coleman Francis movie, so any scrap of joy isn't allowed to last long. On their drive out to the mine, a staked-out cop car sees them and recognizes Griffin as the man they've been looking for. A bunch of guys gather at the airport and get a helicopter at the ready to go and surround our disgusting lead man. The gang's car runs out of oil. When Ruby innocently suggests going back, Griffin says no one is going back and pulls the gun on them. Cook runs, and when the helicopter distracts Griffin, Ruby tries to run too, only for Griffin to put a bullet in her back. Because we can't go 5 freaking minutes without having someone innocent be brutalized by this walking tower of gristle. Griffin runs while Cook and Landis get captured, and shock of all shocks, Justine is alive. While Griffin's running from the law, his wife is rescued and delivered right back to their door by one of the cops, and thankfully, she's going to be fine. So at least someone got a decent ending after all the crap Coleman put them through. The helicopter hones in on the very easy-to-spot target and guns him down as he deserves.
Everybody's having fun and smoking, and the dogs are eating too. Robbing people, killing people, hopping trains is fun.
It's lovely with a four sleigh right together with you. The huge face! I tell you, if my mood picks up anymore, I might not even kill myself.
Well, thanks for not killing me. Right neighborly of you.
Okay, Coleman, we got Cheetos, but we're not opening them until later, understood?
Steve. Yeah?
Who are we?
Take a look.
The Gay High School Secret Service. And they managed to find another beautiful location.
Hope you guys don't mind. I dressed like an old-time sheriff.
I had to call in the volunteer filmmaker squad to end the movie.
Helicopter's over here waiting.
Fine. Ready, Tinsley?
I think so.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, how I long for Cuba.
Here, lick this.
We're out of oil.
Here, let me squeeze some out of my pants pocket.
We better go back.
Oh, but we just got here.
Or no go back.
Now, Coleman, now count to 10.
Maybe now would be a good time to put my hands on my knees and rotate.
Oh, I wish I were less impulsive.
Ah, looks like we caught us two with the tungsten trio.
Epilogue.
Somewhere behind that tree, there's a scene happening.
Please do not reveal the incredible secret of Red Zone Cuba.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I see she bought more lawn ornaments.
Got a load of wife for you.
Great job on the Bay of Pigs, honey. And when Curly dies in the wild, he provides food for other Curlies.
That was him, wasn't it? What the hell?
The cast of How to Succeed in Business moves in.
Griffin ran all the way to hell with a penny and a broken cigarette.
It's just really all you need in hell, so it works out great.
Huzzah, it's gone.
Just like me, Mike and the bots have had all the life and joy sucked out of them by this film. This causes them to try to regain the joy by singing a happy song, but they're so distraught that the lyrics are about very mundane things that don't really spark joy for anyone, which adds to the charm, I suppose.
Oh, you know, aside from the fact that I'll never again experience joy in my life, I don't think Red Zone Cuba had any kind of negative effect on me.
Well, hey, I know what we can do to cheer ourselves up.
What?
Let's sing us a bouncy, upbeat song, okay?
Hey.
Oh, whenever I want to cry and bawl because I'm feeling sad,
Yeah?
I think of ironing boards and drywall, and then I don't feel so bad.
Whenever I start to mope and pout, and there's nothing left in my soul, I check the toilet paper, and if we're out, I buy another roll.
So if you listen to our advice,
And you want to feel terrific,
Do things that make you feel nice.
I wish we could be more specific.
You know, this is the second time me reviewing a film made me get way more annoyed by it than just by watching it. The first was Roller Gator. Roller Gator and Red Zone Cuba were go-tos for me, but reviewing them makes the badness just seep in, as it must have for the guys when they initially had to watch them several times to write the scripts. I think I could watch Roller Gator again today and enjoy it just as much as before, but it'll be a while before I delve back to Cuba with Coleman Francis. I mean, the characters, if you can even call them that, are alone enough of a reason that the movie's hard to choke down. These men may be some of the most paper-thin people we've ever seen in a riff film, especially when the victims of the men get more backstory than they do, so we can feel extra depressed by the trio's heinous actions. Like, we always have characters with little to no backstory or motivation in the majority of our riffed movies, but when you add in having no personality and such a piss-poor script, they're just the absolute least interesting people to ever be put to screen. I get that Coleman wanted to show how sad the tales of the victims were, but my goodness, man, give your main characters an ounce of zest, personality, quirks, life they've lived, anything, please! Add all this in with the super dark gray visuals, all the villainous actions by Mr. Francis's own self-cast character, and a plot that's somehow super vague yet super confusing, and you've got a movie that has no other purpose than to be riffed. Now, I totally do recommend watching this one for yourself. As I said, when simply watching it, not writing a script and editing a video about it, it's a good episode outside of most host segments. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and special thanks to all my awesome Patreon supporters, including Kevin Nata and Isabella Summit. If you love my videos and want to support me, my Patreon is a great way to do it, and it's linked below along with my Discord, Twitch channel, and some other fun stuff. And of course, an enormous thank you goes to the generosity of my St. Jude's backers, including Nightwing, Technodan, Frank, Rogue2, Rich, Tommy Gun Servo, Mist Explorer, Curator of Entropy, Adam, Guido, Bleach Black Cat, Ryan, Roy, Jackie, Donna, City Forever, Stuffy Wuff, Kevin Nata, Servo1991, Angry American, The Yitten Fit, and biggest thanks for this episode goes to Roland, whose support ended up in this review getting made. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, because again, it really helps me out and gets my videos spread to other Misties out there. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys later.
For Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I want to hurt this movie, but I can never hurt it the way it hurt me.